is up, everybody? Oh, thank you. No, stop it. You're much too kind. This is the Video Game Bang, Sacramento's #1 geek and gaming podcast, brought to you by the good people at Oblivion Comics and Coffee. Come for the comics, stay for the coffee. Now they serve beer. Yes, it's like when that greatest place on earth just gets a little bit better. They already had the comics. They already had the coffee. Now they have Sacramento's finest local brewery beer people throwing their beers, slanging their beers at you.
Oblivion Comics and Beers.
They should just change the name. Yeah, change it. Change it. We'll send this man in there to go have them change it. David Webb, what is up, everybody?
What is up, everybody? It's good to be here. I would like to officially announce that my watch has ended.
your Game of Thrones watch.
My Game of Thrones. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. April Fools. I finished season 7, episode 7 last night, which I completely forgot that season 7 only had 7 episodes in it.
Bummer.
Oh, what a bummer.
That's a bummer.
Yeah.
Although season 8 is only going to have 6 episodes, but it's the same length as season 7.
Yeah, because each episode's like 4 hours long. It's longer than
That math
Endgame.
Doesn't check out.
Does it though?
That math
Her
doesn't
math
check
always checks out. Emmaskies.
That's very true. And I tried to teach Webb math the other weekend. I tried to teach him the Pythagorean theorem to calculate the distance that his D&D character travels.
Well, what's the slanted thing called?
Hypotenuse.
Hypotenuse. I kept wanting to say hypothesis. I knew that was wrong, but I couldn't correct myself.
Pi r squared.
No.
What is that? It's something.
I think that's the radius of a circle.
I think
the radius
you're right.
Or no, that's the
circle.
circumference, I think, because r is the radius.
What about C pi die?
Anyway,
That's just a diet
Webb was trying
trend.
to figure out the distance that his character travels because he travels in a different way than just normal walking. And I was like, everybody's like arguing over like, no, we should do it like this. No, we should do it like this. Like we should guess it. And I'm like, I will tell you how you can mathematically figure it out right here. It is super easy. There's one equation, and they all went, no, that's terrible. I was like, it's one equation.
Well, yeah, but it's one equation that none of us can do like that quickly.
You don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything. I will automate it for you.
This man may not be able to do the Pythagorean theorem, but he can find the time it takes to look inside to realize. What's up, Curtis?
Oh, take the time to look inside to realize that I'm perfect.
Just the way you are, man.
Okay.
How much
the
you
way
like
you
French
are.
bread pizza?
Dang it. What song? Because that's going to bug me.
It was Roses, Outcast.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
To divine.
Yeah. To divine. Thank
Yay.
you. Andre, your personal
To realize.
VGB Andre 3000 is here, everybody.
Let's
How's it
go.
going? Let's
Kids,
go.
what do you guys think?
Every time I hear Andre 3000, I always think of that Key and Peele sketch. Not Andre 2099.
That's a good
Curtis, keeping it real, man. My aunt, I love her. Bless her soul. She's probably watching this right now. She doesn't know much about technology or anything, and I guess at her Safeway, they were assigned to make a video about how they market their French bread.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go over to visit my aunt, as a good nephew does.
Uh-huh.
And talking to her, she says, "Cory, guess what? You'll be so proud of me. We made a video."
Uh-huh.
I'm like, "Oh, my sweet aunt.
Yeah.
You know, show me this video."
Yes.
And so she pulls out her phone, and it's actually produced pretty well. Like it's pretty, like really in depth. There's music to it and everything. And
Yeah.
they're like dancing with the bread. And out of nowhere, towards the end of the video, Curtis shows up in my aunt's video, dancing with a piece of French bread. I like fucking thought I was dreaming.
That's my life for you. I'm just so connected with digital media that I just randomly show up in video clips. I'm like Momo,
Oh, God,
but
no.
just a 33-year-old black man. So to some people, even scarier.
So when you filmed that thing, did you have the slightest clue that anybody you actually knew would see that thing?
It crossed my mind because anytime you do things,
He said, I hope not.
I want to cross my fingers, but knowing how the internet works, there's a high probability that someone will see me. See, the way that I counteract that is I just don't have many friends. Chances are that someone that knows me will tell me it's probably low, but hey, it just the world is that small of a place, isn't it?
The world truly is a small place. So we have a great show, chock filled with news. My soundboard is working, but I'm so glad to have Emmaskies back that I don't want to get her too feisty. I have a feeling things
good.
are going to get a little
Okay.
enraged a little later when we talk about a certain subject. So I'm gonna pace myself with Emma.
I appreciate that.
And
I also do need to correct myself because it's going to drive me crazy if I don't. It is the area of a circle is pi r squared, not the circumference. Okay, move on. Moving on.
No one
Moving on.
cared.
I cared.
Okay.
Math game bang. Video math bang.
Let's never talk about this again.
Video game math.
Yeah.
And we're done.
And we're done. So we got news coming from Emmaskies. She took the time. See, it just feels so empty without a theme song. Emma, can I please just play something?
No. Oh, but there was something that I wanted to tell you that I don't know if you already know, but if you don't, it'll be funny.
You don't know, now you know.
So, you know that game that we don't allow you to talk about, The Outer Worlds, because we want it to be good?
That's going to be amazing.
I went and toured their studio this weekend.
No way.
I did.
Did you get a tour like where they let you see the game at all?
No, because I went on Sunday when like nobody was in. There was just a couple people working. But I met Dan from Obsidian Games at WonderCon this weekend.
Ooh.
That's awesome.
And
Name dropping. I love it.
if he's listening, hello, thank you very much.
Hey, Dan.
But I just wanted to tell you that and make you a little jealous.
Well, I'm definitely jealous, but I'm more intrigued. What did you think? How's the give us the breakdown. Do they have good office culture?
So I had to sign an NDA.
Oh.
I don't know what I'm allowed to say, so I'm gonna say nothing.
I didn't read the NDA. I just signed it. So.
Let's see how far we could push it. Do they employ human beings?
You know what? I'm gonna have to ask Dan about that. Like, I don't know.
Are you even allowed to say that you were there?
Yeah.
Ooh,
You may have already broken it.
That's a good
Look, you
question.
already broke it.
Whoop. Start over. Delete this. Start over.
Don't worry. We'll
But
edit
no, it
the
was
whole
actually
thing
it was
in
super
post.
cool. It was a chill day because like there was only a couple people in the office because it was on Sunday. But they have a very cool office.
Where is this at? Because you were
It's in
WonderCon.
Irvine.
You were at WonderCon, right?
Yeah, so WonderCon's in Anaheim, so Irvine's about 20 minutes south of Anaheim, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
But it was a really cool office. I did get to see some pretty cool art that I think I'm allowed to say that I saw. It's probably one of those things where like
So
I didn't see
nondescript.
anything for the most part that like I couldn't talk about, but I'm just like, I don't know.
It's just
I
if he
don't know.
accidentally opens up a door, and here's our conference rooms, and they're showing like behind the scenes clips of Outer Worlds, and they just freeze.
It's the big plot twist.
It's
Yeah.
the end of the game.
Yeah.
I know everything.
He just slowly shuts the door. Okay, about that NDA.
What is? Can you talk about what Dan does?
He works in marketing. So he's their marketing manager for
Oh.
Obsidian.
So is he employing anybody? That would be the dream job. This game is gonna. We think Apex is a big deal. This game is gonna make Apex look like a kid.
Don't-
However,
Nope.
I did tell him that you specifically are not allowed to talk about it.
Did you really?
I did.
You called me out.
I did.
To Dan.
I said we have a video game podcast and one of our guys is not allowed to speak about this game because we don't want it to flop. We want it to be good, so he's not allowed to talk about it because he
Call
jinxes
me
everything.
out.
Well, so much for
And
that
he
marketing
thanked-
job, Corey.
He thanked us and said, thank you, we don't want to be jinxed. So you've heard it now. You're not allowed to talk about this game.
From the source, Dan says no, Corey.
We'll have to get Dan on the show because unless I hear it from Dan, this could just be a ploy from Emma to try and sabotage my unsabotagery.
Sure.
Makes
Emma
sense.
doesn't do ploys. That's so out of
She
character
doesn't
for Emma.
ploy. I've been watching a lot of
Ploy.
Game of Thrones. You know, we're getting ready
Yeah.
for this podcast that we're going to be doing, The Bang of Thrones. It's going to be on Patreon. So we've all been rewatching
That
it.
sounds even worse.
What?
We're going to do Bang of Thrones and it's only going to be on Patreon.
Oh, that's
That
very
sounds
true.
even worse.
Did not think about that. But hang on,
Patreon
really quick before we
exclusive.
get too far away from the title. At first I cringed, but rewatching it, it's actually kind of apt. Everyone's banging each other and they all want the throne, so it kind
Yeah.
of
It
fits.
works. It
Yeah,
works.
Thrones.
exactly.
We got what, like 10 days? Something like that?
It's
Yeah.
It's almost here.
ready.
This is gonna. I think this month should everybody mark it on your calendars. This was the best month in history for media.
Right.
We're getting Avengers and the
Oh god,
the
yeah.
intro
Oh my
to the
God.
final season of Game of Thrones all in the same month.
So did you guys talk about, I think you talked about my horrifying experience with
Yes,
the trailer.
that was hilarious.
I almost cried.
Because you've been avoiding these trailers like the plague.
Yes.
And then what happened?
So I went to the Masquerade, the cosplay competition at WonderCon, and like before, you know, it's held in the arena in the convention center. So it's like a big ass place with a big ass arena sound system, and they just start like kind of playing some trailers, and I was like, oh, okay, this is a Detective Pikachu trailer, this trailer, whatever. And then they start playing a new trailer, and everybody goes like, ah! And I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know what this is. And Paige is next to me, and she goes, oh, it's the Endgame trailer. And I lost all of my shit. I was like, I can't go anywhere. I'm trapped in these seats. There's people on both sides of me, so I can't go anywhere. And I like buried my head in her shoulder and shoved my fingers in my ear, which is like humming so loud.
I could just, I imagine like my girl. Do I need
Really though.
Well, no,
Really.
it's funny because when I went and saw Captain Marvel for the first time, I see the Endgame trailer pops up, and I see Emma get up and walk out of the theater, and then like after it's over, she finally like creeps in and looks, and then comes back and sits back down.
You missed.
She's dedicated.
Yeah, we there's been a lot of stuff. I'm so surprised, and I feel pretty happy that nothing's been spoiled. Really, like it's not massively known what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But tickets went on sale the other day.
Yes, they
Yeah.
did. Oh my
And
god.
didn't it crash Fandango?
Crashed
It crashed everything.
Crashed the internet. It broke the internet more than Kim Kardashian's topless magazine shoot.
Oh,
Wait,
That's a fun
which
fact.
the
one?
bar has been set.
Wow. Yeah, no, that was a nightmare. Like I couldn't get through on Fandango. Fandango still has my money, which by the way I want back.
Wait, what
Oh,
happened?
God, that's
did
right.
one of your sales not go? Or, did they take your money and not give you a ticket?
They froze the money so that they could put the charge through, but then it aired out and the charge didn't go through, and now there's just a charge of $112 frozen on my account, and I
Good
can't
Lord.
access it. I'm like, I want my money back.
So, what are the seeing plans? Are you guys seeing it the minute it comes out or the night of?
We would have if my fucking charge had gone through.
Okay, so I'm going through in our group chat, and I'm looking at how it went down, because I woke up like at my normal time. I didn't wake up early to try and get in on this. So I'm reading. I was stressed just reading this. What about 6 p.m.? 6 p.m. is gone. Okay, what about this theater? This theater. I have a wait time, a 30-minute wait time on this, 15 minutes on this, 10 minutes on this. I have 5 tabs open. I think I got this one. Okay, what about this time? Okay, we're doing this time.
Wow.
So stressed.
I'm sure the rest of the world was doing the exact same
Yeah.
thing.
Oh,
now.
100%.
Yeah.
10 p.m. Thursday.
And then you guys are supposed to see
Captain Marvel.
then roll.
before.
So you're turning this 3-hour movie experience into
Like a 6-hour movie
like
experience.
6-hour movie.
Yes.
What?
So I was gonna take. So my original plan, because the goal was to see the first showing of Endgame that we could. So like 6 or 7 o'clock. So I was gonna take like half a day Thursday off work, so I had enough time to see Captain Marvel and then go into Endgame. But since we're not seeing Endgame until 10, I'm like, okay, well we could see Captain Marvel at like 7.
Oh wait, so you're seeing Endgame at 10 p.m.?
Yeah.
That's a 3.
That's a 3-hour movie.
Why? Why would you do that to yourself?
That's the late.
Because I'm not 57 and I can stay up past midnight.
Jeez. All right.
So needless to say, I took Friday off because I'm working all day Thursday, seeing 2 movies. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then I
Any
have tickets to
reasonable
see it
man would
again.
take a day off work to see a movie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Makes
I
sense.
told my entire department, FYI guys, I'm not gonna be here on the 26th. I'm gonna see Endgame the night before, and it's just not happening.
Was this as hectic for you, Curtis? Because didn't you get some tickets too, right?
Yes. I'm going 2 times on Thursday and 2 times on Thursday, and then I already have my tickets for Sunday as well.
Your matinees?
No, not matinees because I work on Sundays now.
So you've already got 3 rounds purchased.
Yeah.
What
Do
if
you know somebody at Fandango? How did you pull that off?
No, I just went and got them. I didn't do it like as soon as it started. I waited till later. I didn't have any problems at all.
So you're seeing it like later in the day?
I'm seeing it the 6 o'clock one, and then the.
But are you seeing it on your own or like with a smaller group?
Oh, I'm going by myself.
Okay, yeah, because we're getting 6 tickets. That's why we got fucked.
That's
Okay.
true.
Okay.
We were getting 6 tickets at the same time, so we couldn't get anything.
Yeah, I've been and like told like whoever like, hey, I'm going. No one hit me back, so I was just like, well, I know I'm going to see it at least twice that day.
So
I have tickets for Friday too.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Nice.
I wasn't gonna buy into the day one hype. I don't do that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get hyped about things.
You better stay
ever.
off the internet.
So I didn't, and then I heard all you guys. I popped into Emma's stream, and she started talking about it a little bit, and the stream started talking about it a little bit, and then I started getting that itch of like, oh man, am I about to miss out? Like,
Yeah.
at first I was like, I'm cool seeing it Monday or seeing it the next week, and then last night while I was laying in bed, I got the itch, so I pulled out the phone and I started going through Fandango, and there's plenty of stuff left. Like,
Yeah.
we'd be going for like a date night, and there's still plenty of tickets available.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like every time, that's the thing. Every time this happens, I always. But that's the thing. Like they said, they're getting like a bigger group. That's
If
tougher.
you have friends, I guess.
I usually don't buy more. Yeah. I know, right? Back when I went with a big group of people, it was a bigger deal. Now it's usually just me and like one other person. It's never really a big deal to find the tickets.
Yeah.
Because the casual fans for the most part still aren't like crashing. Like I remember actually every movie that recently I was either able to get tickets without a problem, or I could just went and got them that day, like the day of. It was no problem. Just walk right up to the box office.
I actually had thought about, when we got our 10 p.m. tickets, I had thought about, like, I was like, I could just get one ticket for, like, a 6 o'clock showing, and I could still make the 10. And I was like, I legitimately have thought a lot about doing it. And I was like, no, I'll see it together for the first time, whatever.
How are you going to, because you could just see Captain Marvel earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we get some news, some really good news, a big story off of a very big game that there was a lot of hype about. How many years worth? 9, 8, 7, 6, about 5 years worth of hype on this game at least?
You're talking about Anthem?
Anthem.
Yeah, I was to say
7 years.
Seven goddamn years.
3 names, 7 years, 2 presidents.
To be fair, the first name was not really a name. That was just a code name within
but
the company.
But this was a big Kotaku article that came out.
So if you haven't read it, Kotaku put out a big like this article is like 11,000 words on the development hell that was Anthem.
Yeah.
And it's bad. It's really bad. And I know a lot of us were so ready to shit on EA for being the problem with this game, and it turns out, yeah, but also BioWare was just as responsible for what a shit show this all was.
Couldn't be BioWare. Everybody loves BioWare. That's Mass Effect.
BioWare doesn't love BioWare.
Yeah, BioWare.
That's the problem. Yeah.
So this article was based on interviews with 19 people who worked on the game or on adjacent projects within the companies, written by Jason Schreier, if I remember correctly. And it's just... So I'm reading the whole article, and I feel like the one line that summed it up really well for me was, Anthem is the game you get from a studio that is at war with itself.
That'd probably be a better video game right there, the premise of that. Dissect that for a minute. It was just a nightmare from the very beginning. They started working on this, we won't go
not
Mm.
the
through
very
whole thing.
beginning.
Well, yeah, once it started
picking up, yeah.
But yeah, in 2012, Casey Hudson kind of started working on this game. They didn't have a name for it. They didn't really have a full concept for it. They were just like, we want to do something different, something new. And it went through all these different iterations of, what kind of game do we want to make? We want to make an action game. We want it to be online. But it was never supposed to be a loot shooter.
No.
That didn't come until much, much later. And
that's ultimately what it became.
Yes, it did become a loot shooter, but that was, not from the beginning what it was supposed to be.
And a weird loot shooter, too.
What I found interesting from just the breakdown that you had put down for us was the original code name of it, and how those intentions must have been so pure, because they ended up calling it codename Dylan, right?
Right.
Yes.
And that's in reference to Bob Dylan. 'Cause
right.
They wanted to be the Bob Dylan of video games.
Yeah,
they wanted to be talked about for years to come.
But I think,
and you know what? They probably will be.
Just not the way they wanted.
Not the way they wanted to be, 100%. But Curtis, when someone says they want to be the Bob Dylan of something, it's not saying they want to be talked about for years necessarily. There's more heart to what Bob Dylan means to people in music.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty coveted and considered a treasure. I mean, you're talking about something almost legendary.
Without
in
that aura of trying too hard,
no,
being important
with much less ego, of course. This is because of how endearing the work that you did does. I mean, this is showing that you really cared about the craft, and you put a whole lot of yourself and your heart into, not necessarily being pompous or cocky.
Yeah, what Bob Dylan was doing had purpose. He was political, So when you're saying you want your game to be the Bob Dylan, you're saying I want this game to take a stand.
Yep.
And change what people perceive as a good video game. We're going to give the people hardcore act. So that's heavy.
Yeah.
So that's not what we got.
No. So the original idea when they were very first starting to talk about this back in 2012 was that kind of what they had settled on was that it was going to take place on a hostile alien planet. And essentially it was an action survival game that was online. So you'd play in teams of 4. And basically everything on the planet was bigger, scarier, and more powerful than you are. And it was basically just about how can you survive? How long can you survive? How can you make it through this? Even the weather was against you. Like they had this dynamic weather system that had everything from seasons to like natural disasters, like electrical storms or tornadoes or things like that you would have to deal with. And early iterations of the game that they had, like they were able to make basically tests of this, and they were like, we figured this out. And if you go back and look at their E3 2014 announcement for the new game that they're working on, that was supposed to be Anthem. And it looks nothing like what eventually came out.
Yeah. Even the suits, like you were always going to have an exo suit, but it was designed less Iron Man and more like futuristic NASA suit.
Okay.
Like look at NASA in 20 years and what's the spacesuit going to look like kind of thing. Not like I'm going to jump into this Iron Man and fly around. Well, flying.
Flying was not going to be a mechanic.
Hard no on flying. It was in, and then they're like, no, we don't want to do this. It's going to mess up with the terrain and how we want to have the terrain. One of the biggest things was like if you fly, then it's hard to put mountains and stuff in the way to kind of block you from getting to the edge of the game.
Okay, right.
And so they're like, okay, well we don't want flying. And so I didn't read the whole article because I actually own Anthem, so I wanted to play a little bit before.
You paid the gold price.
Right.
No.
Oh, yeah, you didn't.
I did not.
Yeah, you
So-
donated. It was a gift from the gods.
Yes, that's what it was. And so the ironic thing is I was in one of the missions I played today. After reading the part of the article, I went to go up and over a mountain, and I hit this hard wall. This boom, hitting like a ton of bricks and dropped me down like super fast. I was like, that's why they didn't want flying in this game.
So throughout the last 7 years, flying was in, and then it was out, and then it was in, it was out, it was in, it was out. And every time they changed whether or not you could fly, they had to change the terrain of the game every single time.
Oh, gosh.
And so this is like skipping very far ahead, but basically what it ended up being was that BioWare has this tradition where for Christmas, whatever game they're working on, they'll make like a playable sort of take-home demo sort of thing that all the devs can take home and play over their Christmas break or whatever they get at the company.
Okay.
That's just what BioWare does. So in 2016, it was Anthem's turn. So they made a little playable demo of Anthem. There was no flying. You were kind of just like running across a farm. You would shoot some aliens. It was very mundane. And an EA executive in Sweden got a hold of it.
Like one of the top executives.
Yeah, Peter Soderlund, I believe. And he played it, and he was like, this is unacceptable. This is bad.
Really?
And yeah, he was just like, he hated it. He hated everything about it. It didn't look right. It didn't look pretty enough. It wasn't fun. It was dull. It was mundane. And he was just like, this is not acceptable. So they began what they called like a 6-week complete crunch to basically make a new playable demo just for Patrick.
Oh, my.
And one of the things they ended up doing was putting flying back in. And I think they said that, they had QA testers that were running through it over and over and over and over again. And Patrick flies down to Canada, goes to the office, and within like 30 seconds, you are flying. And he was immediately like, yes, this is what I wanted. This is perfect.
Ooh.
That's the gift and the curse of like the whole executive making an executive decision thing, especially like so late in development. Sometimes it's the right move to make, and then sometimes it's like, okay, that was only one person. I know it was an important person,
but it's still only one.
Only one.
The crazy part too is them having to use the Frostbite engine. So Frostbite was developed by DICE, I believe, for Battlefront.
Oh.
And one of the other games. Well, it must have just been for Battlefront.
It was for Battlefront, and then EA decided that it needed to be for everything.
Everything had to be on Frostbite, and it's a proprietary engine. So only those.
No way.
Yeah, so only those who developed it and worked on it know how to code in it. So you have BioWare Edmonton, trying to work on something that DICE created on the other side of the world. And it's clunky. It doesn't make any sense. Things are titled differently than they should. It doesn't work the way they want it. They need it to work. They can't do the things that they had originally planned within this without completely rewriting it. And the crazy part is that since EA made this a mandate across all of EA's, subsequent developers, they have this help desk for Frostbite.
Okay.
But because RPGs are lower on the totem pole, you have FIFA and Battlefront are the ones that get the most like
Priority.
help. They get priority. Anything else has to wait. So if you have a FIFA game coming out, you have a Battlefront coming out, you're not getting shit.
Yeah, you
and
get
so
no
when
support.
Anthem started developing, they were originally developing on Frostbite. But FIFA still wasn't. FIFA eventually moved to Frostbite.
Okay.
And at that point, they're like, we need people that know how to work with this. So they took people off of Anthem and put them on FIFA.
Yeah.
So they took an already understaffed and overworked crew,
Guys,
took
like,
them out.
where do I put these rocket boosters? Those go on Pele's shoes?
It was just such a nightmare. So
Oh,
every
man.
single bit of this. So I mean, we're kind of jumping around a lot here, but the
So were they,
development cycle-
apparently.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is indicative of the development of Anthem.
It was
we planned
so
this.
bad. It was so bad. So Casey Hudson, we talked about, had started this idea in 2012. Casey Hudson left the company in 2014. So the person that was
yikes.
leading the entire thing was gone. Then eventually they brought on the Dragon Age writer, David Geider, I think is how you pronounce his name.
Which is another issue.
Oh, Dragon Age is its own issue.
Well, no, not just that, but just the fact that so he comes in from Dragon Age, and that's what he knows. He knows Dragon Age.
Yeah.
And so he's coming in, he's trying to write something, and it's too similar to Dragon Age, and everyone's
Right.
like, well, we don't want to do that. It's why are we redoing Dragon Age? We want to do something different. He's like, okay, that's cool. Well, what do we want it to be? And they couldn't
Right.
give him a straight answer. He's like, okay, what do you want? What do you want from me?
And then he left the company.
And
And
now we know why.
Yeah.
Tying this
Jeez.
back to the Dylan thing, it's like a bunch of dudes got stoned and were like, we're gonna make a game like Dylan, bro.
That's 100%
They were-
what
They
happened.
were listening to Dylan at the time.
Yeah.
They're like, why aren't there no games like Dylan, man? And then they got sober and realized, when people started coming in with common sense and telling them wisdom like this,
Right.
giving them story ideas, they're like, nah, bro, we don't want that because Dylan wouldn't do it. Okay,
Yeah, Dylan-
what would Dylan do?
Right.
Something else, bro.
they,
I don't know.
They wanted it to be more like Bob Dylan, but it ended up turning out more like Matt Dylan.
Yeah, man, that's what they got.
Wrong Dylan. Is there something about Mary?
Come on.
Oh, it's
Matt
been
Dillon.
a while.
Okay.
That's-
he was the guy with the teeth.
Come
on.
Yeah, so that guy
I got
came
you.
on. So that guy came onto the project, and he was told when he moved onto the project that they were looking for something science fantasy, and he's like, "Cool, I can do that. What I do is fantasy." But the game that they had been working on since 2012 was, we don't want this to be fantasy. We do not want this to be like Dragon Age in space. That is our decision from the very beginning. So then somebody signed him on and told him to make what they didn't want. And then they just butted heads the whole time. There was no singular vision for what the game was, and he eventually left. So around 2015, 2016, one of the quotes that I wrote down from the story was, from the article says, the story was changing constantly and progress on the game grew sluggish. One early idea was that there would be multiple cities, which eventually turned into one cities and player-created outposts, which eventually turned into one city and a mobile strider base, which eventually turned into a single fort. The earlier survival ideas completely melted away. So by 2015, 2016, the entirety of what the game had been was supposed to have been was gone.
When did it hit its first E3 appearance?
2017?
2017.
Oh wow!
So,
this is 2
technically 2014, they teased
That's
a
true.
new game, and they had some in-engine footage that was never anything. But that was Anthem they were working on.
So
And it was just the seasons changing. It was just it was the seasons aspect, the dynamic weather and stuff like that we saw in 2014.
more the engine basically
Yeah.
just doing pretty
exactly.
things.
Yeah.
So, but so when we're talking about this crash where it's already bastardized from the original vision, that's still a year at least before they started thinking about pitching it to us.
Oh, yeah.
the customer.
Oh yeah.
Yikes!
And it was about the time that Andromeda was about to release.
Oh, and they're probably like, okay, we'll get our money. We'll get our reputation. Andromeda's going to be great.
Well, so that's the
Well,
thing.
It wasn't doing well and this is the thing, going back even further, backtracking a bit. I think I had mentioned this before the show. I think one of my favorite bits of the article, or one of the most important, I think, was that somebody that he talked to said that Dragon Age Inquisition being a success was one of the worst things that's ever happened to BioWare. Because the production schedule on that game was fucking brutal. It was horrible. And it started this thing that they called the BioWare magic.
Yeah.
And that's essentially that, everything is on fire, nothing's working, we have just months until the game releases, but with the BioWare magic, everything's going to come together in the end. And on Dragon Age Inquisition, it did. It was Game of the Year. It was critically acclaimed. And they were saying that made them think that this is an acceptable production style and that it's sustainable. And it wasn't. And the same thing happened on Andromeda. And so, again, the article says, put another way, Anthem might have started to look like it was on fire, but Andromeda was nearly burnt to the ground. And this is before Andromeda released.
Yeah, I've worked in places like that, like embrace the grind.
Yeah.
Those type of, this is how we do. No one else does it like this.
Right.
Which, I don't know. I buy into, you got to have that some kind of culture in your workplace, and that is a way to bring your people together and give like a sense of pride. But that's not the way you're supposed to do business. You give people time to do things.
Yeah.
You give people time off to rest and recharge.
So that's the thing about this too. Is like one of the most disturbing things for me about this article is hearing about the culture within the company and how it was like depression and anxiety was like the plague in there, because people would be gone. They would have stress leave. No, what was the other one? It was like when they would just all of a sudden just be gone. Like they would have such a meltdown.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember.
A rapture.
No.
they
would
there
have
was like a company term for it.
And they would have basically this meltdown, and then the next day they're gone, and they could be gone for weeks. They could be gone for months. They may not come back. Because it was just one developer was saying how there were multiple times throughout the day he would get up, he would find an empty office, shut the door, and just sit there and cry because it was just so brutal. And that's like that all of it. Like one part of the article was talking about how gaming fans have started tiering Bioware. So you have like the A tier Bioware, which is Edmonton, that's the original. They did Mass Effect trilogy, they did Dragon Age, and then you have the B tier, which is Austin, they did the Old Republic, and then you have C tier, which was Montreal, and they did Andromeda. That they've since been gone. But the whole point is that's true within Bioware too. Edmonton, within the company, Edmonton is looked at as the A tier, whatever they say goes. B team and C team, they only do what Edmonton says. Edmonton comes up with, this is what we're going to do. You guys do the grunt work, and then we're going to do the fun stuff kind of thing.
Oh, man,
they're not going to listen. It's so bad.
This is toxic.
Austin office, they did the Old Republic. They did an online game, and they were trying to give feedback, and A team in Edmonton was like, no, we don't, just stop talking and do this code.
Dang.
Yeah, they talked about like the people in the Austin office would get whatever they're supposed to be doing from Edmonton. They're looking at the story missions and they're like, hey, we've spent years working on this online game, this live service, which is what you're trying to make, and we can tell you this right here that you're trying to do isn't going to work because we've done it before and it didn't work. So we're telling you so that this isn't working. And they would just be like, they would just completely brush them off, totally dismissive. This isn't your job. Just do what we tell you to do.
Oh, that's the worst. And here's the thing, like, call them B tier if you want, but the team running Old Republic has been grinding.
Yeah.
Like, they took that game, a lot. It was never a bad game, don't get me wrong, but, people wanting the original, like me, just were left unsatisfied. It was too MMO. I gave it a shot. I played for months, but it just wasn't, like, the story-driven stuff that I wanted. Then a couple years down the road, they started listening to that feedback, and they came up with some bomb stories. But I think it was just one of those like too little, too late types of things. It already had its reputation. The people who are still playing it are fucking playing it faithfully because of reasons that it's a good developer.
So it's funny that you talk about reputation. So going back to the article, like we said before, it was never meant to be a loot shooter, and then as time went on, and eventually became a loot shooter. Talking about other loot shooters was like taboo, especially Destiny. If you said the word Destiny during a developmental meeting, it was like you just like cursed out everybody. We're not Destiny. We're not going to be Destiny. And
they wanted to be their preferred reference was Diablo 3.
Diablo 3. And the problem is that, okay, but this is a loot shooter and Destiny is a loot shooter. And right now it's one of the top loot shooters.
Like,
in
we
terms
should be
of
looking
sales.
at what they're doing right.
We should be looking at what they're doing right. And speaking as somebody who's played the game, it's really weird, and I didn't think about this until after I read the article. You collect loot, but you don't know what you collect. You're collecting these little lighted up orb things as you shoot down enemies. You have no idea what it is. You don't know if it's
in an
weapon.
Earlier version of the game, you did know.
You did know. And
then they changed it.
The 2017 video that we saw at EA, you would land, you'd loot. Oh, cool! I need that. I need that gun, or I need that part for my javelin. But now you don't find out until after the mission is over. And then you go through, and there's no, and I just figured out today, I could actually save things. I didn't know I could save things. I've just been breaking everything down because that's the only option the menu gives me, is to break things down. And so I'm like, I don't know. I could have broken down some pretty high tier stuff without even knowing, because I'm thinking that's all you do with it.
Yeah. So the demo that we mentioned earlier that they made for that exec, that they kind of just like shoved together real quick, that became the base for the E3 demo that we all saw in 2017.
Okay, the one that was actually more in depth.
That looked really good.
Yeah.
And then I immediately looked at it and said, that's not the game we're getting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I did. So we have to realize when that E3 demo was shown, the game was still in pre-production.
Wow.
It hadn't even started production, and it had been going for 5 years.
That's scary.
So somebody talked about how that E3 demo was mostly guesswork, which is why it looks nothing like the game that was launched, because they hadn't even started producing the game. They didn't have a single mission done. They had nothing.
What I think is kind of one of the tales here of like just companies making and decision making. It seems like at the beginning they dreamed really big, and there's other games that have done similar in the past. Blizzard had Project Titan, I think it was called.
Yeah.
And that was going on for years. We'd hear about this mystery shooter, and then we heard out of nowhere, it got scrapped. They canceled it. It's gone. But they're working on the remains to create something. That something became Overwatch. So they pivoted something that was probably what we know as Overwatch. It's just a competitive shooter, but they probably had some crazy stuff in mind.
Oh, yeah.
Storyline,
Campaigns
all online
and,
MMO shooter. They're probably telling themselves these crazy things. They were going to be Hendrix, man.
Right.
And then through better wisdom and listening to possibly a better culture, they took this thing, and instead of dragging it out for more and more years and giving us some piece of shit game that we would have been laughing at, they pivoted and were able to turn it into something great. Like Overwatch is a super successful game. Another one would be EverQuest Next. You guys remember talking about that one?
Yeah.
That game had what was the dev's name? Was like David Jorgensen, the guy with the ponytail.
Yeah.
Looks like Elon Musk with a ponytail.
With a ponytail.
Look him up. He was selling this game so big, the AI in the game will learn the weather terrains, and they'll move around here. And if they're getting slaughtered on this road, their AI will tell them to migrate to this area where they're safe. And then it's like Minecraft. The land is flat, but you can dig down, and you can claim your own territories and build a base. And it's all MMO, and you guys are the economy. And it just got fucking blown up.
Yeah.
And then they just canceled it altogether.
Oh.
Yeah, so like you're seeing these attempts. 3 different companies had 3 dreams of grandeur.
Right.
They all failed.
Right.
Why did they fail? Why can't we make games like this a reality yet? Are we limited by the technology? It's got to be the technology, or are people just too stupid?
I don't know if it's the technology, because from the article I was gathering, it sounded like it was something. A lot of the things that they were planning on doing were things that they could have done if they were able to use an engine that they were familiar with,
or an engine that had those things built into it.
Or the engine,
like the Frostbite engine doesn't even have a save system built into it. It doesn't have a third-person camera in it. Like it didn't have all these things that they needed, and they had to. So everything that they made, they had to build from scratch, from the ground up. And it came up to a point where you're like, is this worth it, or should we just cut this? We should probably just cut it because we don't have time.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it overall obviously it was massively mismanaged. I mean, like, and when I say too many cooks in the kitchen, there's a difference between collaboration and meddling. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds like there was not like a single voice guiding this thing in the direction that it needed to be, a single voice that, had the vision and also listened to the feedback that other experienced people, were trying to, to tell them.
Yeah, because after Casey Hudson left, they didn't have another, like, singular runner. They basically had, like, the creative team
by committee,
that was doing it. Basically, they were running everything by committee, and how these meetings would go is you'd have a meeting, and everybody would agree on something and be like, okay, we want to do this. Yeah, we want to do this. And then somebody pipes up and says, okay, but what if... And then nobody makes an executive decision, and the meeting just ends. And it takes months to make a single decision. So, while all of this is going on, Mark Dara is working on Dragon Age 4. Okay. He was the executive producer of Dragon Age 4, and while all this is going on, like, totally different area, they're working on a different game. That eventually gets canned. So Dragon Age 4, not going to happen. I mean, it is now because they redid everything. But at the time, Dragon Age 4 got canceled. They took him off of it. They scattered the rest of the devs somewhere else. And they put him in charge of Anthem.
Okay.
And I guess it was one of those things where Mark Dara, as soon as he came in, he was like, everybody just finish what you're working on. Everybody, I'm making this executive decision. You don't know what to do here? This is what you're doing. You don't know what to do here? This is what... Like, he started making decisions. He started putting people on a path to the point that he had such a significant role in the game that he has lead billing in the credits.
Oh, wow.
He came in 6 years into the development cycle. He was there barely a year before the game came out, and he had such a massive role in it that he has top billing.
I wonder if it was one of those things where just a bunch of other people didn't want their name on it. They're just like, you could be top bill, dude. Put your name all over this one, homie.
Nah, bro.
Yeah.
Well,
Don't even put me in the credits, dog.
No, that's right. You know what? I did this for the creative experience. I don't want credit. It's cool.
Well, the people they talked to said that, they didn't feel like they were putting out a bad game. They felt like, they felt like, we've done something good. We think, obviously it needs polish. Obviously we didn't have the time to spend on this that we wish we had. But I think, with a few months of work and some good stuff, this will be good. This isn't, they had, I guess, I didn't know that Game Studios did this, but they would have like analysts come in and look at the game and play the game and basically estimate what your Metacritic score is going to be or what your review score is going to be. So they had the analysts come in and they estimated high 70s. They were a little generous. A little bit generous.
I don't even occur to me that they'd have people who have that job. That's
right?
a fucking sick
That's
consulting
crazy.
job.
It's
So
interesting,
this is jumping like way to the end, but it fucking floored me. So when they finally it's finally time to launch the game, and they launch it on that EA Early Access first, they launched the wrong version. They launched a version of the game that was 3 weeks old that had a bunch of bugs that they had already fixed.
Oh.
And that was the public release of the game. What a fucking mistake to make.
That's the
Delete.
guy. That's the guy when he realized what he had done. When he hit enter to send live, he was like, "We were on the latest version 5.68, right? Right?
6.2.
What a fucking mistake on
Well,
top of everything.
I'm taking it off. See you guys later.
While he walks the unemployment line.
Yeah.
How do you launch the wrong version
How
of
does
the
that
game?
fucking
Delete the
happen?
file, bro.
I'm going to be completely honest. For my job, I've accidentally posted the wrong version of a video once. But,
Yeah.
I mean,
But that's not a game you spent 6 years on.
the stakes were much lower. Yeah.
Mistakes were. Yeah.
It was a nightmare. So that is like jumping way ahead, but I was just like, that fucking floored me. So they knew this whole time. So after, during the E3 thing, the 2017 E3 thing, EA had told them, you're releasing this fall of 2018. And they were basically like, there's almost no room for you to wiggle on that because it will be released by the end of the fiscal year, which is March of 2019. And as we know, it ended up releasing in February. Right. But they were just like, there is absolutely no universe in which you have more time. You cannot have it. You will not have it. You're releasing this by the end of our fiscal year. And they're just like, okay, I guess that's what it is then. Because one of them talks about like, you would get to this point where you would see bugs and it's like, we don't have time to address that. We just don't. Because we have hundreds of days more work than we have days to work with. So when you see something like loading screens, it's just not going to get addressed. Dang. Because they literally do not have the time. So they knew going in, they're like, this is a problem. This is a bug people are going to notice. This is a bug people are going to see. And then the other side of that was, again, another problem with Frostbite, where we talked about because none of them knew how to code in it because they didn't create it and it was proprietary. They had to talk to somebody else over in Sweden. Right. So bugs that should have been fixable within hours took weeks of back and forth talking with somebody to fix. And it got to a point where they're like, when it takes that long to fix a bug, you don't want to fix it.
Yeah.
So they just got left in.
Jeez. This is a disaster. I think
everything about it was a disaster.
I think this is a web talk for the future, for sure. And remember this, the topic is got to be what was the last game to really push gaming forward? And why has it been so long since we've had another one?
Yeah.
And what's the next one on the horizon?
Yeah.
That should be it, because gaming feels pretty stagnant.
It's hard, especially after reading this article. It's hard to look at games that we know are coming out and be like, oh, that's gonna be the next one because
Dragon Age.
Dragon Age. Well, yeah, because look at this game. 6-7 years in the making, right. And looking at what the end product is, there's probably some elements that are what the original team had in mind. It's an alien world. You have an exoskeleton. You have,
Same name.
Not even.
Not even.
Not
No.
even.
Whoa.
Oh, we didn't get to that. So up until 2 weeks before the EA thing in 2017, the E3, in 2017, they were going to be calling it Beyond. That was the title of the game. It was Beyond. And then 2 weeks before E3, they were like from upper management coming down the line, they said, "Oh, that's gonna be too hard to copyright, so we're gonna change it to Anthem." And everybody was like, "The fuck does Anthem have to do with it?" Because the whole point of Beyond was you're going beyond the wall and beyond civilization to go into this, hostile world. And then, so what the fuck does Anthem have to do with it? They had to rewrite parts of the story to cram in, something had crash landed on this planet called the Anthem of Creation.
Oh my god.
And blah, 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 blah,
no.
blah.
Like, they have merchandise printed up for a game called Beyond
Yep.
that doesn't exist.
So they didn't say exactly why they scrapped it? Was it like
They just said it was going to be too difficult to get the trademark for it.
Yep.
the worst of reasons you want to hear?
Yeah, they're like, the name is fine, we just can't get the
It's
trademark
the
for
equivalent
it.
of saying it's too hard.
And
It's too hard, so
it
you have
is.
to call it this.
And the thing is why are you waiting until 2 weeks before E3 to trademark the damn thing?
Well, I figured they'd probably been in the process of it for a while, and it was at that point where they were like, we're not going to get this, and we have 2 weeks until E3.
Even still, realize that way before.
Yeah.
Like when
2
you're
years
making
into
up
this,
the name.
yeah, 2 years into this, be like, we're not going to get this trademark. Okay, let's change the name now before we get too far. Nah, it'll be fine.
Yeah, it is.
BioWare magic, it'll be all right.
BioWare magic.
BioWare magic.
They reference that constantly. Like they said
Constantly.
it with Andromeda, they said it with Inquisition, and then when they talk about it, interviewing devs who were saying like, we noticed the exact same thing happening like 2 years before launch. We're like, hey, this is exactly what Dragon Age Inquisition was going through. This is exactly what Andromeda was going through. Can we stop this? We see it coming. And
Yeah.
they just got brushed off. They got dismissed. It wasn't a problem. Just go do your work.
Jeez.
And then speaking of Andromeda, this just keeps going and going and going. But the directors of Anthem literally mandated to everybody that this game be unmemeable.
Wait, what?
Unmemeable. Because
Why would you want to not have your game be memeable?
Because
That's-
of the
that's a meme.
absolute shit show that had been the Andromeda facial expressions that became an internet joke.
Well, okay, there's a difference because memes are different than what that was. Like,
Well, yeah.
Memes were made out of how negligent and how awful it was. So if you
Right.
make something awful, if they make something great, it's going to get memed because that's just what you do.
Right.
You meme everything.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily a bad thing for something to be memed, especially if you do a good job. I mean, it just brings attention, to that product.
It's
But
marketing.
yeah, except for in the case of Andromeda, that stuff was just God.
What it feels like though is that they took that and they're like, okay, well, let's not try and push the envelope. Let's pull this back. Because it feels like playing the game and watching the NPCs' facial animations when they're talking to you and you're interacting with them, it feels like old technology. It doesn't. The facial expressions, the body motions don't match quite the emotion and the intensity of some of the some of the
what they're
voices
saying.
of what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's very generic, moving and like weird, like it'd be like an android trying to
Like
do
very
something
robotic.
Right.
human.
Yeah.
And like they're talking and then he like looks over here as he's talking and then like it doesn't look natural.
Which
There's
is super
one.
weird because like they made a point to say that because of that unmemeable direction they'd gotten, they performance captured everything. None of it was like rendered animation kind of stuff where you're just like creating it because that had been the problem with Andromeda. So they
Right.
performance captured everything.
Well, they got
which-
the performers got to be good.
Well,
I
yeah.
went to the local
I mean-
Y and picked up the drama crew.
Yeah.
Right. That was one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I heard about the game is that in the cutscenes, some of those things don't match up to kind of like the timing or like the urgency of the game and stuff like that.
So that was, which brings us to the next point.
Well,
So because they did performance capture, that's way more expensive. So they essentially they're like, we have one shot at all of this shit. So you record it and it's recorded and it's done and that's what it is. But while all that's happening, this game is constantly changing. The story is constantly changing. Everything about it is like nothing is set in stone. So essentially what happened is they recorded all the lines and then the story would change. So there are scenes where I guess one of the characters is talking about her aunt and this like her aunt just left on this whatever mission, whatever, and she's standing right the fuck next to her. Or there's a scene where somebody is talking about he's talking about somebody else that's in the city, like they're right next to him, but he's not there. Like there are multiple of these scenes where the story changed and they were just like, we can't change the line. That's what it is. That's how it stays. But
really quick, I want to address chat really quick because we are streaming this live on twitch.tv/videogame_bang. Staunch Billy in chat is talking about how he loves the voices in Anthem. So let me just clarify. I'm not talking about necessarily the voices themselves. The voice acting is very good and it sounds great. I'm talking about the facial animations and the body language that accompanies those voices. That's where I feel personally there's like a misstep. It doesn't match with the quality.
Oh, we could probably go on about this one for a lot more
future
time.
web talk.
This will be a future web talk for sure, but we're already going to be pushing this one into a little bit of an overtime because there's one other big thing we have to talk about. And we've done a very good job in the pre-show of not letting the floodgates open and like knowing each other's stances, to be honest, because I don't fully know what people's arguments are going to be. But we got a Joker trailer. They're calling it a teaser. It's not a fucking teaser.
no, it's like 2 minutes long.
That's the movie. We saw the movie.
Yeah, it had full scenes in it. And dialogue, and I want to know what you think, Emma.
Are you sure that you want me to go first?
Yeah, well, do you want me to go first?
You guys
go first.
You
Go
I
ahead.
think this movie's gonna be fan-fucking-tastic. I can't wait. I've never been excited for a DC movie like this since the Dark Knight series.
Okay.
That's when I was like, oh man, I gotta go see that one.
Yeah.
You know, that's the last time I ever said that about anything DC.
Okay.
I have to ask because it is you. Are you trolling?
No.
Or are you being serious?
No,
okay.
I'm actually
Okay.
maybe I'm a little playing it up. I'm playing it up a little bit, but
Okay.
no, but I do mean what I say when I say this is the first in a long time I'm excited for a DC movie. I will go see it. I'll go see it. See, and like you said, I don't even have tickets for Avengers, so like you can't really take that too much. I will go see this movie. That's a backflip.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Curtis, you what did you think?
I wasn't excited about it when I first heard about it. Seeing this trailer, I'm no more excited about it than I was before. Joaquin Phoenix is one of my favorite actors, so that's kind of the only attractive part about it. It looks like he's going to give just another stellar, single performance. So that part I feel like will be entertaining, and hopefully I feel that hopefully the writing is good. But I never wanted a movie where I found out how the Joker became the Joker. I not even in the comics. At no part did I really want that. So for someone like me who doesn't even like the premise of it, they've got an uphill battle when it comes to people like me.
So what you have and what you're describing is common, because I read a lot of other people share this opinion, is that one of the things they love about the Joker is the fact that it's kind of like, fuck you, he doesn't need a crazy backdrop. He's just the way he is, and you never get that. And it's kind of a selling point to a point of him.
Yeah, the mystique.
I completely, I get that. I understand that.
Yeah.
So you just saw it for the first time. What are you kind of thinking?
So Emma and I share pretty much the same opinion, so I won't go too much. So I don't. Well, no. I mean, I'll say what I was gonna say. So I originally watched the trailer with no sound, and I saw online people were like so hyped about this. I'm like, okay, well, I must be missing something. So before we started the podcast, I watched it with sound. I still think I'm missing something because it doesn't look like
You know what you're missing?
Why don't you say some words, David?
I can't. I have no words. Like, it doesn't look like it's gonna be interesting to me, like at all. Like, I have no interest in seeing.
You know
this
why?
movie.
Because nobody fucking asked for this movie. Who asked for this?
It's not even that. It's not even
Nobody.
the fact of not like needing a Joker origin story, which I won't go too deep into because I see Emma pulled up her notes, so she has thoughts on that. But it's just the fact it just doesn't seem like the Joker, like at all. Like the Joker is like batshit crazy, and he does not seem batshit crazy. If anything, I feel like maybe we'll get the Joker at the end of the movie when he finally breaks, but in scenes of, you know, the short movie that we just watched, you see him in what appears to be the Joker garb.
Right.
Like, he becomes the Joker in the trailer, which doesn't... And then they have reports of, like, crime happening, and the only person that would do this is somebody behind a mask, and it kind of implies that he becomes the Joker at some point during the movie, not at the end. And it just doesn't seem...
So, two things on that last exchange. I think one thing about this movie that you should all be grateful for is the fact that now there's not going to be a Jared Leto movie. I believe that it was one or the other, and when this one was getting greenlit, they canceled the other one. So you can thank Joaquin Phoenix for that one.
Here's the only reason I would disagree with you. Because at least if they did Jared Leto, it would be a somewhat cohesive universe.
Oh, don't. Dude.
No, I know. That's the only thing.
Can I interrupt both?
Emma, please.
Can I
Go.
explode, please?
Please.
This is so fucking stupid. No, this is the dumbest shit. This looks like a bad movie. Looks like a bad Joker movie.
No.
This is... Who the fuck asked for this? Okay, so let's get into this. Like Curtis said, like Webb said, an origin story for the Joker is not fucking necessary.
Why not?
Half the point of the character is that you don't know where he came from. He just is.
What's wrong with that if
you
a movie does
the
explore
mystery of it.
No,
you take
no,
away
no.
that is part of the character.
That stuff still exists.
No, it doesn't. You take it away.
You think this movie's going to change 100 years of Batman lore, 1,000 issues of how
their
the Joker
movies
was
don't have
created?
don't have that much of a reach.
Exactly. They don't. And that's
so
why
you're taking a character who is fundamental to the comics and being like, fuck that, we're going to do something different. Whatever.
Yeah, why not?
No,
why does it have to
stupid.
be exactly like the comics?
It doesn't have to be exactly like the comics. It just shouldn't be this. It just should not be this.
I agree with
that. And then if you're gonna do if you really want to do an origin story, why are you gonna cast a man in his mid-40s for an origin story of the Joker?
Wait, what?
He operates for decades. Are you telling
This
me
is
he's
already-
breaking out of Arkham and fighting Batman
my
and running across the
gosh.
city in his 60s and 70s?
First of all, they did a good job of making him look a little bit younger than
No, they
he
didn't.
actually
He
is.
looks older than he is.
No way.
He looks way older than
Second of
44 in
all,
this.
we already acknowledge this is going to be something different. It's a unique storyline. So this is not the Joker who you guys all know and want to see. This is not Mark Hamill. This isn't any of them. This is this own thing for its own spin-off movie.
So he becomes the Joker in his 40s, and he operates for 2 years, and then he breaks a hip and dies.
There's not even going to be a
Pretty much.
Batman in this movie. Like it's just a good. I think this is going to be
Thomas Wayne is in it. So
Thomas Wayne is, and even that little boy. That's Bruce.
that's just
Okay,
who's
so-
the child that he stuck his fingers into his mouth.
Yeah.
I'm not about that.
So that's
Oh my
that's
gosh.
it's the same thing of why the show Gotham frustrates me is why is Bruce a child while you got the Penguin and I don't watch the show so I don't know what other villains are in there, but you got other villains in there running around as full-grown adults. And so it's like, okay, well, by that logic, it's no wonder Batman always wins. He's fighting geriatrics. That's why the Penguin has an umbrella. He needs it to walk. It's his cane.
Oh, and let's not forget the fact that the woman who's ostensibly playing his love interest is 20 years younger than him. Couldn't get that one out of there. Couldn't make her in her 40s.
Another one of
Had
those,
to cast somebody in her 20s. I'm just like, this is so, I don't understand. I really don't understand why you're making an origin story of somebody in his 40s. If you want a Joaquin Phoenix Joker and you want to do an older Joker, that's chill. Why is it an origin?
Yeah.
And, oh my God, why are we even doing a Joker story? There are other characters. We do not need to rehash the same villain over and over and over in increasingly mediocre storylines. You had a perfect one in Heath Ledger. Should have called it good. No, we're going to try again. Total fail with Jared Leto.
Yes.
Should have called it there. No, we're going to do it again.
I just don't know where the animosity or the hatred, because it looks like maybe if they just called it Clown Man, set in its own universe.
I mean, I
you
don't
guys
really
wouldn't
care.
have so much hate on it, but this looks like a fucking solid movie.
But it's not called Clown Man. It's called Joker. They're going off of a character that already exists. They're doing an existing
you're just mad
character.
for personal reasons, not necessarily for anything that's going to come out of this
What else?
story or movie.
The movie
doesn't
the
exist in a
trailer-
vacuum.
Oh,
And also,
yeah.
I just don't really care about clown dude gets beat up and now he's mad. I just don't like. I wouldn't care about this movie if it wasn't called The Joker.
Man.
I wouldn't be mad about it. I just wouldn't give a shit because like this whole like Norman Bates thing they've got going is weird.
Yeah.
Like it's just I don't understand. The only way that this works in my head is if they're going for like the 3 Jokers thing, and at what point are they ever going to explain that? They're not.
No, they haven't
That's
even
the
fully
thing.
explained it in the comics yet.
Right, like they're not even doing
Yeah.
shit with it in the comics. They're
No.
certainly not going to do it in the cinematic universe. And like you said, like this is the nail in the coffin of any attempt for a cohesive movie universe.
Yeah, I think so.
They have just given up.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? We're just going to put out a bunch of shitty one-shots and we'll see what happens.
I don't
Well,
think
actually-
this one shot's gonna be as shitty as you guys think. Like, so you guys aren't interested in the storyline because I liked.
No, that's
No.
the least attractive part about the storyline is how this man turns into the Joker, and that's majority of what people don't want.
Yeah.
That's one of the number one things about the Joker that people love. Like, you don't know who he is. You don't know where he came from.
He hasn't needed an origin for the last 80 years.
No, he's literally the embodiment of anarchy. That's essentially like Batman is order, and he and the Joker fights for chaos. Like literally the way I envision the Joker is that he was born out of like the worst of humanity. Like everything that like terrorizes us, makes us scared, fearful, or harms us. Like I feel like he would just manifest it out of nowhere.
What's crazy though is that you guys talk about this, and this is outside of the comics. Of course, the Joker in the comic book has a storyline. He didn't just appear out of nowhere.
The only thing that they've
he's not
ever
the
done,
Void.
the only thing they've ever done would be the Killing Joke, and some people even debate on whether or not that is real. And even if that is what you take, it's not this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there already is a potentially established canon if
Yep.
you really want to go for it.
If you really want to do a Joker origin, there's a template.
Yeah,
Yes.
and people reject even that template, and it's more so about because I mean, yeah, we know that there's less popular storylines and things like that in the comics that have happened over time. What you usually lean on is what's most essential to the character. What's the thing that works the most about the character, and then usually that's the thing. That's the one thing that you try not to change, and maybe you try different colors and different hair, and maybe but you leave the thing that works alone, and that's literally the thing that they're tampering with is who the Joker is. At the essence of him, he's a mystery. All you know is that he's bad news. Why? And now they're changing it to like, oh, yeah, now they want you to sympathize with the Joker even more. Like, oh, look, he had a rough life, and this is what turned him into. It's like,
and
I
that
don't
like
want
they
that.
with the way that
I
he's playing it
do.
and the way that they're doing that whole thing, like it's at least it has like another level for me because I'm so over mental illness being the baseline for violent criminals.
Right.
I'm over it. We need
Yeah.
to stop. Like that is always like, oh, he's like this because he has this mental illness.
What's his mental illness?
There's. I don't really want to go into like what I think it might be, but there are very clear signs based on the way that he is playing the character that make it seem like he's playing up certain mental illnesses.
Yeah.
That whether or not they go into in the movie, he's very much basing it off of.
I felt that heavy too from in there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just like, this is a terrible representation of mental illness, first of all. And it's just like, we just need to get away from using that as a baseline for violent criminals because you just create this stigma, this fear, and it's
Right.
like mentally ill individuals are far, far more likely to be victims of crime than perpetrators of it. And it's like, everything
guess-
about this sucks.
No, I guess that's one of the things where the movie's going to have to play out for itself. What is the rating on this thing?
They haven't said.
They haven't said the rating. What do you guys think? You guys are so against it, whatever. But what do you think it should be?
I don't know what it should be. I'm guessing it's probably going to be R though.
I think they'll go for an R.
I think they're going to go for an R. In chat they're talking about how it's DC and WB have already announced that it's not part of the DCEU, which is
Oh, of course
fine.
not, yeah.
But it's
Then what's the point?
it's not even that. I don't know. It's just such it doesn't make the story doesn't make sense to me. And I'm the biggest thing for me is one of the many things that Emma talked about. The biggest thing for me is the whole age thing. It just it doesn't line up for me. Like if this is a Joker, like fine, do a different origin story. Like okay, whatever. But it doesn't make sense that he's in his 40s becoming the Joker
It
because
just feels like you guys are just digging out excuses to shit on my movie because finally I think one's going to be good.
Or you're just ignoring all of our points that actually make a lot of sense because you want to like this movie.
No, because the 100% difference is you guys care about it way more than I do. That's the separation. This is the part where I fall into the like when it comes to especially DC comic book characters. I like everybody else. I'm a normie.
yeah.
So I don't really care that the Joker has a story. He doesn't have a storyline. That's what makes him cool. It's like, well, no, he had a childhood. He had to have, and just because you like him better because you don't know it, okay, but that's not anything.
So you're
I
telling
don't care
me
enough.
if they made a Sentry movie
Yeah,
and they totally screwed with the entire character, changed him completely, and not one thing was the same, you'd be fine with it, and we'd be sitting here like, yeah, I don't know the character, so I'm cool with whatever they do.
that one hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
but
How the turntables.
What are your reasons for liking it? I guess as much as you feel like you might, because we're literally talking about a trailer still. But like, what are outside of Joaquin Phoenix? Like, what are the things that seem like you would like? Not seem interesting, but literally like drawing you in.
I like the tale like of how he wanted to be a comedian. He's optimistic. You see him in those other scenes before, and he's trying to keep a positive outlook on things. And then the world is just beating the shit out of him, and he's seeing that the world's in chaos. And he's doing stand-up comedy, and he doesn't look like he's particularly good. And he's just one of those guys he's dreaming so big because his mom, I'm sure, told him you can be a star if you put your heart to it. And this is what he's dedicated his life to. And then when it doesn't, what he devolves into, I'm curious just to see the tale
but you know what he devolves into.
Well,
you know who the Joker is.
But
already.
like in the thing, like how he's struggling, this is what he wants to do, and then he's walking out through the big curtains of like a Tonight Show. So he, through this kind of crime, is going to achieve his dream, his ultimate dream, which is celebrity. So I'm not taking it for anything. I don't care what he cares about or like anything that he's done in the past or any of the Batman comic book stuff that you guys are caring about. As an individual one-shot movie, I think that is cool. And I think Joaquin Phoenix could pull it off. I like the music that they used in the trailer. I thought that it painted a picture.
Okay.
That's why. I just think it's going to be a good movie.
So take away the Joker.
I would see it.
Yeah,
I'd be
that's
just
the thing.
as excited.
That's the thing.
I'd probably be
Okay.
more excited because you guys wouldn't hate it so much. Because now when I go, I'm going to be like, oh, my friends all think this movie's fucking garbage. But.
So I think that's the underlying issue is
Yeah,
that
because it's not just some random guy.
everything that you described has nothing to do with him being the Joker.
Right.
It's just a guy who like tries to do the best he can, gets shit on, and then what does he do?
Yeah.
Right.
And so that movie on its own, I might be okay with
You know what
seeing.
this looks like, really, if we're gonna talk shit about it. This looks like some like Oscar buzz circle jerk. They're going for like some artsy, like we want an Oscar. Fuck off.
That's and thank you. and that's literally why. That's where I feel like it started in the wrong place with this movie. I feel like someone was like, I'm gonna be the one to make superhero movies like award-winning.
Scorsese.
Yeah, like an artistic.
Well, because
and all
that's the thing. Scorsese was involved early on. Before he
was and
he was giving it money. Let's be real. He was giving it money.
But I see really why, and I see why they pitched it because, and I see why it was like that because they pitch it as Taxi Driver and all this stuff in modern day.
Well,
but
and
that's whack,
there's a
though.
reference to Taxi Driver in the trailer.
And see that's what I'm saying. Like like you started off on the wrong thing. You're looking at someone else's IP and making that the center of what this is when this character already has a very established identity. So you're literally all you're doing is looking at Marty Scorsese's film, and then you're going over to DC. Plucking something and then just slapping the face of it on there.
You know what they did? They're doing to this what Bethesda did to Prey. Where they took a fine game and they were like, this will do better if it has an established IP slapped onto it, even though it has nothing to do with it.
I'll raise you one and say that the first code name for this movie was Dylan. They got high one day.
Way to bring it around.
They got high and they're like, this is going to be the Dylan of comic book movies, bro. They're going to talk about this for 10 years.
Which again, much like Anthem, we
They might.
probably will.
They probably will.
So fucking
I don't think it's
stupid.
going to be bad. I think if
I
you
don't
guys,
think it's gonna be bad. I just don't want to.
I just don't
I just
care.
have no interest in
That's
it.
fine. That's fine. That's fair enough. We'll see what.
Like
It's
whether
October. right?
Yeah, it's October. So whether it's good or bad, it's not the Joker.
It's not the Joker.
Which is the annoying part.
If it-
because
but
you're
here's
gonna
the thing,
sell
though.
it to me as a Joker movie.
Here's the thing, though.
Don't do that.
It has all the makings. If he does a fucking killer performance and there's some good scenes and people do get into it like a Scarface, it's going to be on t-shirt. Like, it's one of those things that has that potential, the Goodfellas type of potential.
Joker's already on T-shirts.
Well, this Joker, though. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm
Like,
trying to think of like a more popular supervillain, even.
And you know how you know it's popular? Because it's the only fucking one they'll do. Batman,
Right.
Batman has the biggest and arguably best rogues gallery of any comic book hero, and they're
Totally.
gonna rehash the same one
Oh, and
over and
so-
over and over and over.
I realized after looking at chat too and the way it came up, I don't mean like Joker's not on t-shirts. They're gonna start putting them on there, but I mean like in the same vein that you see Scarface on t-shirts. Like, you know how you see those type of movies make it where it's like, because this is a badass, and that's, you know how. I don't know.
That just takes it back to like the artsy dark circle jerk that I don't care about.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's what this movie is. I'm like, this is the biggest beg for an Oscar from a superhero movie I've ever seen.
We'll
Yeah.
keep our eyes on it and see if it succeeds, but we do have one last segment we got to get to. Since we've already been talking about the comic book world, it's time for Curtis's Comic Book Corner. What is up?
Yo. Thanks again to Oblivion Comics and Coffee for always providing awesome comic entertainment for us to take a look at. This week I wanted to switch it up a little bit. We're still with Marvel, although it is Star Wars number 64. Hey.
Oh.
That we're working with. Actually, I'll pass it around this way this
Ooh,
time.
hey, look at that.
Super dope cover, by the way. Shout out to
yeah.
I got to double check who did the cover art. When it comes back around, I'll tell you who did it. But on this one, the writer is Karen Gillan. Karen Gillan. So there's two Karen Gillans.
Okay.
that are popular.
As you said that, I opened up the front to see who the artist
And
was.
it's-
I was like,
And it's
Karen Gillan. What?
Yeah, but it's spelled differently because it's a
Okay,
different person.
alright.
So this is
Gerald Perel, cover artist.
okay. Did the cover artist?
Gerald?
Perfect.
Gerald.
Yeah,
Really?
killed it. It's incredible cover for all the
I haven't seen
podcast listeners. Check it out on at your local comic book store. But Karen Gillan, the male Karen Gillan, wrote the Vader run. Not the current one, but the one from like 2015, 2016. That was like 4 volumes. Incredible. If you're you're someone who even like the EU, I urge you strongly, go back and read all of them. But just start off with volume 1 and you'll love it.
What was a brief synopsis of that storyline? Because I do remember that kind of getting popular.
It was between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. And basically Vader's in the doghouse because the Death Star was destroyed. So Palpatine pretty much like relieved him of almost everything but his rank. So he took away his military, he took away a lot of his privileges, and basically he was running around telling him to go do grunt work. So what's cool is that Vader, he's telling Vader, hey, go find out, or no, he told him to go out to like the outer rim and get some money for me or something like that. But what Vader does in that time is he goes, finds like an old droid like factory, starts it back up, so he makes himself an army since it's been taken away, and he makes it a point to find out who that pilot was that so easily destroyed the Death Star. And through that story, obviously he finds out that it's Luke, and obviously Luke.
That's
is
a
his
great
son.
storyline. I love how
You
you
have
make
no
Palpatine
idea.
like a pimp too. Go get me my money.
Go get me my money, Vader.
Bitch, you don't have my money.
Fine,
So where does this take us on the timeline? Because Luke looks kind of young.
Yeah, this does happen after that storyline. I think this time period is between The Empire Strikes Back, I believe, and no. This is still in between New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. But this is a far out mission. So what they're doing right now, they actually Shotorun was one of the planets that Vader spent a lot of time with on his run. Karen Gillan wrote that run, so naturally Karen Gillan took it over from Jason Aaron, who did all those amazing Thor runs, like in the Look for Ragnarok. That's all Jason Aaron writing. Took it over, and now they have to return to Shotorun. They have to get the Queen, and they have a shapeshifter who impersonates themselves as the Queen, goes in and basically locks down the fort so they can infiltrate it, and they have to send out some sort of beacon. Well, they got gosh, how am I forgetting his name? Of course, it's one of those odd Star Wars names, Benneth or something like that. But they got a guy on there who it kind of shows you the sides that I liked from Rogue One, how they're doing things for a good cause, but they're not all good things.
Okay,
You know, and
yeah.
then how you see, you know, some of the bad guys, so to speak, like do good things and have families, but they're on the wrong side, so to speak. So it was really cool. They got one guy who basically wanted to set it off. Luke's like, we just need to get in here and like take down some people and send this beacon. And this dude's a little more gung-ho and kind of starts letting that lightsaber swing a little too much, or the blaster in this case. And Luke's like, he's like, we can't have people coming behind us. They can sabotage us too. And Luke's like, all right, but keep that to a minimum, bro. Like, you're wilding right now. So things I like about Kieran Gillen, his story, he's a really good comic book writer. His stories have a beginning, middle, and end. So even though you're coming in halfway through a story right now, there's a beginning, middle, and end, and you can follow it pretty well. So it flows pretty smooth. So shout out to Kieran Gillen, and that's right, it was, I want to get his name right too, Angel Uzieta was the artist on the pencil. So that one's pretty dope. This one from Image Comics, going back to my indies, because I read more indies than anything. Paper Girls. Anybody who remember the name Brian K. Vaughan?
Yeah.
I knew you would, because you like Runaways. Brian K. Vaughan, who created and wrote the Runaway storyline, as well as, you guys might have heard about, the name, The Wicked and the Divine.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Jamie McKelvey, who was the artist for Young Avengers that you really liked as well. Karen Gillan and Jamie McKelvey do that. That's all done through Image. Well, Brian K. Vaughan does Paper Girls. Came out right before Stranger Things. Think of Stranger Things with all female cast.
I'm about it.
Okay.
I'm going to skip these two.
Yeah.
I want to pass it to you first. So at this point in time, this is issue 27. They have broken time so bad. It's to the point where I love what they did, because literally in the first volume you're already go to like the future, and in the second volume you already go to like back to dinosaurs. It's literally, they're the coolest line in there. The dialogue is incredible. The color palettes are awesome. But Brian K. Vaughan is known for his writing. He also writes Saga, which everybody loves, and I don't love Saga. I don't know why, but I'm gonna try to read it for the 4th time. There's a part where someone's with their future selves, and the future self pulls out a Memorex tape and says, time is a little bit like this tape. It has a beginning and it has an end, but if you keep rewinding and going back and recording over the same part over and over again, eventually you'll break it. Like, that part will be fully gone and totally different. Word.
Dang.
And I'm not saying anything else about this book.
That's some Dylan shit, bro.
That's Dylan.
That's some shit Dylan
There
would've
goes your
wrote.
Route 66 right there.
I broke time.
Bob Dylan. But anyway, this book is just dope. Like, go down to your local comic book store. Hopefully, if you're in Sac, you're going to Oblivion Comics and Coffee. Pick up Paper Girls. Again, Brian K. Vaughan, awesome color palettes, incredible dialogue. Y'all don't know what you're missing. Please go pick this up.
Don't know what you're missing. If you're in Sacramento, you got to go pick them up at Oblivion Comics and Coffee, though. That's where we're going to be on Monday. Next Monday, if you hear the words of this show and you are in the Sacramento, NorCal area, we're going to do a Game of Thrones trivia night, where it's going to be all the trivia for Game of Thrones. Emma has been slaving away over at these questions. So we're going to have some fun, and they're going to have beer, guys. They have beer now, so we can get some beer.
Some mead.
Some mead.
Some ale.
Yeah, if you fancy. David Webb, what's your stream schedule looking like?
Stream schedule is when I want to stream. So follow me on Twitter at RealDavidWebb, and I will tweet I'm going live. I may do a Skyrim stream on Friday.
Hey, there
So
we
we'll see.
go. You got to, man. You're in Game of Thrones mode. Just close your eyes and imagine you're in Westeros.
I'm just gonna put on like the soundtrack from Game of Thrones and just the whole
Get it
time.
on
I'm just
PC,
gonna-
because I bet there's a mod.
There
I
is
do
a
have
Game of
PC.
Thrones mod, 100%.
There is.
Yep, confirmed.
All right, that's it. That's what we're doing. Friday.
Emmaskies, what's up?
I'll probably be streaming Thursday and Friday at 1 p.m. and then just working on Game of Thrones trivia.
Game of Thrones trivia. Actually, for those of you who watch the show live on Twitch, we're not gonna have an after show. We're gonna cut it here pretty close so that we can actually finish up the final details of that trivia. Curtis, what's your stream schedule been looking like?
As of right now, I'm just locking it down as Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, since those are the days that I'm off. And if you catch me on any other day, it's a surprise. Threw down. Man, I was going for a 7-hour stream last night, and I started a little bit too late.
Man, you're getting into the grind, dude.
Yeah, man, taking it back
hours
to back to. I mean, that's how I was streaming. Like around the time I was like first coming on here, I was getting busy, but just getting sick and everything, it kind of took it away. But I'm back at it, so come check me out on. I read comics. I read both of these comics today before I came here on the stream.
Yep.
That's all I do every Wednesday, and I read a little bit of the Ultimates too. So yeah, just check me out Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I'll be on playing NBA 2K, Smash, and anything else.
Anything else?
Who knows?
Follow us on social media at Video Game Bang on Twitter. We do notifications when we go live on there and all sorts of good stuff. And thank you guys. Great show for the real David Webb, Curtis Fisher, Emmaskies. My name is Cory, saying you've just been banged.